Running out of battery. Testing. Let's hope this lasts. So the non-scriptural reading that I'm sharing with you this morning is actually, this is sort of an anthology of readings called The Way of Forgiveness, but this little one is written by Anne Lamott. She says this: "The good news is that God has such low standards and reaches out to those of us who are often not lovable, and offers us a chance to come back in from the storm of drama and toxic thoughts." Augustine wrote, "Late have I loved you, O beauty ever ancient. You were within me, but I was outside." The storm outside is just so much more enlivening, and for a writer, much better material. Plus, I can be a hero in my own storm, which is where I found a sense of value as a child, as the tense little EMT in a damaged family. Crisis, self-centered fear, and saving people were home for me, with a wet bar serving up adrenaline. The quiet, tranquil room of just being was boarded up. But love reaches out and reaches out and reaches out. It is staggering that it is always giving me another chance, another day, over and over and over.
Our scripture reading is from Luke chapter 13, verses 6 through 9. Jesus told this parable. There was a fig tree growing in a vineyard. The owner came out looking for fruit on it, but didn't find any. The owner said to the vine dresser, "Look here, for 3 years now I've come out in search of fruit on this fig tree, and have found none. Cut it down. Why should it clutter up the ground?" In reply, the vine dresser said, "Please, leave it 1 more year while I hoe around it and fertilize it. If it bears fruit next year, fine. If not, then let it be cut down."
Would you pray with me? Oh. God, you know we always make mistakes. We try to be the best people we can be, but we often fall short of our own expectations and that of others. Help us to remember this morning that you always offer us a second chance, that we are worthy, that we are beautiful. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of each of our hearts be filled with your light and your wisdom. Amen. So many of you may know that Julie and I really enjoy gardening. We help each other, we work together. We've got almost 3/4 of an acre of a yard, and it's got a lot of flower beds and a big vegetable garden we put in. We've tried to sort of divide up the tasks. So she gets the responsibility of the flowers, I get the responsibility of the vegetable garden, though we kind of help each other. And I've decided that when it comes to me and my green thumb, we do not work well inside. I need the help of Mother Nature, God, outside to help me with my vegetables. So whether the plants live or die, inside is Julie's responsibility. True story. But I was thinking, none of us like to see our plants die, right? Do not ever give me a poinsettia, because I just always feel bad that they die. I've seen Julie multiple times pull out the poor little struggling wilted flowers that she's put in a basket or a pot, break up the roots again and plant them lovingly and put some fertilizer in there and just try to, nurse them along. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And we're always moving something or splitting something and trying to, our rhododendrons and our raspberries we're moving and our hostas we're splitting. We're trying to give everybody more light or less light or more room or get them out of the poisoned soil, because we had those black walnut trees that just do nasty things to the soil. I'm not sure it's completely out yet. So we're always working really, really hard to make all these plants live. Last year I planted a row of beets, a couple rows of beets, and I put all those nice little seeds in there, and then they all came up. I always plant extra because I'm afraid some of them won't grow up, but they all came up, and then they're like this close together. Well, how do you grow beets when they're this close together, right? And I know I have to thin the beets, and I hate doing it because that means like killing the poor little seedlings. So I thinned them all out, and then I'm gonna give them a second chance. And I moved them somewhere else in the garden, and I planted them, and I gave them some food, and who knew, but like miracle of miracles, a bunch of them grew, and I had all kinds of more beets all over the place. So I share all this because this is what I'm thinking about when I'm listening to the parable that Jesus is telling. Although I know that the parable is not about our planting, and it's not really about the fig tree, right? It's a message to us. It's a message to us about ourselves, about our relationships, about life. And what's the main message? The main message is about a second chance, right? So listen again, because I think there are at least two more, really important things tied into that second chance. And I'm going to give you a second chance to tell me what those are in a second. So, it's about the owner of a vineyard, right? He goes out one day and there's a fig tree in amongst his grapevines. And he comes out and he's going to pick some figs, but he sees that there are no figs on this fig tree. And he turns to his vine dresser and he says, really, this is the third year I've come out here and there are no figs on this tree. What's the point? It's time we cut it down and just make some more room for some grapevines. And the vine dresser says, yeah, but we haven't really tried. Give me a year. Let me dig around it, let me fertilize it, and then if it doesn't produce fruit, then I'll go along with you, we'll cut it down. So aside from just the generic message of a second chance, what else do you hear? What is it about second chances that it tells us? Hope. We need to have hope. We'll go back there. Hold on, I heard two. Scott? I'm sorry. It may need extra attention. Absolutely. So you have to hoe around it. You have to give it fertilizer. Whatever it is, it needs care and nurture and attention. Missy, what did you say?
I just said you have to give it some love and attention.
Yeah, love and attention. Definitely.
Possibly someone else to help encourage you with your issues so that you can succeed.
Sure.
So it's give you another chance.
So maybe somebody else to support you, a support system and an encouragement to just go, don't give up yet. Let's give it some more time. Sure. The other thing I thought about was, how many years was that tree barren? 3. And yet, still going to give it another chance, right? So maybe it's not ever too late for a second chance. So what are the kinds of things we need second chances in? Or who needs second chances? People who make mistakes. That's everybody, Jim says. Absolutely. So can I put myself at the top of the list, right? So it's our friends, and it's our neighbors, and it's our families, our kids, and our grandkids, and our parents, and our siblings, and our cousins, and our whoever. What else do we need second chances for? Nothing. Relationships in general, so maybe trusting again, loving again. Connie.
Well, what about medical issues? If you have something really serious and they think you're dying and then they fix you and you come through and you get a second chance at living.
Sure, so people who've survived cancer or survived COVID or something, and you go, wow, I've got a second chance to live again. Sure. What about a job? Second chance at a job or a new career. What about your dreams? A second chance at your dreams, at making them come true. A second chance for talent or skill. They say you can't teach old dogs new tricks, but none of you are dogs. So why not try something new or try something again? What about a relationship with God? Trying a church again. I know a lot of you have given that a second chance, and I thank you for that. I have too. All of those things we need second chances for. So here's my disclaimer for the morning, okay? My disclaimer for the morning is that I do also note that in this parable, there was a timeline, right? You got a year, and then this tree is out of there. And I agree that sometimes with some situations that a limited number of second chances might be prudent and helpful, right? This message is not about those. This message is about the second chances that, we're not quite perhaps beyond the point of giving those. This is about recognizing that with some help and some hope, that a second chance may yet be fruitful. And I want to say that even if we determine that this, whatever it is not, we're not going there with another chance again, God does not ever give up. As Anne Lamott says, love is always reaching out and reaching out and reaching out, always giving us another chance again and again and again. Pat?
I was going to say, I think you could also think about that if you try something a number of times and you fail, maybe you would be good at something else. That tree is barren, but it could make a beautiful piece of furniture.
There you go. So for those of you on Zoom, and if you didn't hear that, that was sort of a, maybe if you've tried, and maybe it's not your gift. And as Pat said, maybe the tree should have been furniture. So, could be. And sometimes you need another perspective, like Donna said, to help you see that gently, kindly. So I think the way of second chances ties in fairly well to the way of integrity and the way of perseverance that I talked about the last 2 weeks. Because part of giving a second chance to ourselves, probably first and foremost, and then to other people, is having integrity. And by that, again, I mean the spiritual integrity to know that we are deeply sacred beings, no matter how many times we've messed up, no matter what screw-ups we've done, we are beautiful and unique inside. We have blessing to offer the world. And so we need to remember that, to stay in integrity to that inside ourselves, and to recognize that in someone else, even when it's hard. And then the perseverance seems obvious, that we have to keep trying. And maybe it's a second chance and a 20th chance and a 50th chance. But it's a perseverance to not give up. And we talked last week about having that thread that goes in and through and around all things. And if we hold on to that thread being the divine essence, if we hold on to that, we can't get lost. No matter what happens to us, we can't get lost if we hold on to that thread. And there's that saying that says, I'm at the end of my thread. Maybe it's a rope, but in this case, it's a thread. Come to the end of my last thread. Whatever it is, make that thread be God. Hang on to that. So, what makes it hard? Because I know sometimes it's hard. What makes it hard to give yourself, let's stick with ourselves, shall we? What makes it hard to give ourselves a second chance at something? Negativity. Can't do it.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure. We don't like failure. No. What else? Lack of self-esteem. I'm not worthy, I can't do it. You're back to negativity. I'm not good enough, I can't do it. Connie?
Fear of criticism by other people.
Fear of criticism by other people.
Lots of hope.
Loss of hope.
Forgiving.
Forgiving
Forgiving.
in that,
In that if you have a relationship that you kind of scarred, to actually forgive that person or have them forgive you for whatever you've done incorrect or,
okay, so sometimes it's hard to forgive.
yeah.
Agreed. To forgive ourselves sometimes
Right, right.
is harder
Both
than
ways,
anything
both
else,
ways.
but hard to ask forgiveness, hard to be, yeah. What else? What makes it hard to give ourselves a second chance?
Feeling trapped.
Feeling trapped. Don't feel like you have options.
Too much work.
Too much work. Yes, I agree. Because we've just said, you gotta hoe around the tree and fertilize it, and gosh darn it, that means I gotta go out to the store, and I gotta buy fertilizer, and I gotta get my hands dirty. And I just don't feel like it, it's just too much work. Yeah, I hear you. Don't have the energy and the time for it. Those are pretty good. I'm wondering if I came up with any others. I think you did. I think you pretty much got it. Afraid of getting hurt, afraid of hurting somebody else again. So all of those reasons that it's hard to give ourselves a second chance, those are pretty much the same reasons that it's hard to give someone else a second chance. Because it's hard to forgive. It's hard to trust again. We don't want to be hurt again. We don't want failure again. We don't want to put the energy into it. So, back to your hope. The two things we need for a second chance are hope and help. We've got to have that hope. I don't know how anybody lives through life without hope, and maybe they don't. We have to believe that there's a chance for another day, a better day, doing it differently, getting through this. But we also have to give it some help. We can't just, the owner of the vineyard couldn't just expect to come out, now I'll give it one more year without trying again. Well, if you don't do anything different, why would you expect there to be a different result, right? So if we're going to offer a second chance, then we need to offer the support and the strength and the nourishment and perhaps the teaching in order to make it work, in order to really give a second chance. Okay, so here's my confession of the day. I have at least one definitive character flaw. I know you're thinking there's more. We're going to go with one for today, okay? One definitive character flaw. And that is that I really want to be good at everything right away. So sometimes I don't even want to take a second chance because, well, gosh darn it, if I wasn't good at it to begin with, why would I be good at it? I want to put the time and energy into it. I should be good now. The problem is that happens with basically nothing. That almost everything takes time to learn and to develop and to work at before you get good at it. Here's a story from way back in my life, okay? When I was in high school, I was in forensics. How many of you did forensics in high school? Anybody? Nobody? Only 3 of you. Okay. Forensics is, do you know what forensics is? Okay. It's speaking or doing poetry or doing prose or all kinds of different speaking sorts of competitions. So, you did that, Jim? Okay, good. Maybe a few more of you is coming back now. I know it was a long time ago. So I did forensics and I did a category called significant speech, which meant that I had to write a speech for a quote-unquote significant occasion. So I chose to write a eulogy, go figure. No clue I was going to be a pastor at this point. Wrote a eulogy on Susan B. Anthony. Okay? And I thought I did a pretty good job writing this speech, and I got got high marks, I was breezing through the season, and then I came up on one of the hardest judges in the circuit. He was from Marquette High School. I should remember his name, but maybe I blocked it out purposely. But everybody knew he was tough, right? And I gave my speech, and I'd been doing really well. I was pretty proud of myself. Oh, that didn't last. He just cut me down. He wasn't necessarily mean about it, but he was pretty clear that there were a whole bunch of things that I could be doing better. And now I'm back to my inherent character flaw, right? I should be good at this right away. I shouldn't have to work at it. So I had a choice. I could just keep using the speech I've been using for the rest of the season and hope and pray I didn't come across him again. Or I could do the work, right? I could dig up around the tree and I could fertilize it and I could rewrite the speech. And I chose to put the work in. I rewrote the speech, I rememorized a new speech. And would you know it, I hit one of those higher levels of competition and there he was again. I was so nervous. But I gave my new speech, and you know what? He was really proud of me and really impressed. He said, you actually did what I suggested that you should do. And he gave me high marks, and I had a really good season. But the moral of the story was, I had to put the time and the energy into that second chance. I couldn't just go before him again and hope that maybe he'd have a change of heart the second time around. Jobs are like that. Relationships are like that. This is probably another thing that I'm sure you haven't guessed, and that's that Julie and I don't have a perfect relationship. Go figure, I know, right, Tim? Anybody got a perfect relationship? No. Ever have two kids? Irv does. God, aren't you sweet? Except that Sue's shaking her head. It's nice. Denial's a beautiful place, Irv. You're gone 6 months of the year. This is how we make it work. So, but we've learned, and hopefully all of you have learned, that if you want to have a good relationship, if you want it to last, you have to put the time and the energy into it. You have to listen to each other. You have to respect one another. You have to sometimes, hang in there and hang in there and hang in there, or get the help that you need, or the therapy that you need, or the whatever, in order to make it through. We're probably on our 50th chance by now. Yesterday it was, Kay, if you're going to fold my jeans, could you please not fold them this way? Could you fold them this way? Because I like to iron them with a crease in them, and if you fold them that way, it's harder. Yes, dear. It's just the minor stuff that we do, and I'm picking on you, I'm sorry. It was no big deal. But that's the kind of stuff. So I have to change, okay? I get a second chance to do it right. It's not always that easy. These are simple examples. Second chances are not always without risk. I came across a story about a woman named Gina, who with her husband, they started an Ace Hardware store in kind of an edgy part of town in Washington, D.C. And people were moving in. It was, the neighborhood was getting a little bit nicer, but there was nowhere for anyone to go for hardware, so they decided this was a great place for a hardware store. And she decided that not only was the store going to be a part of the community, but the community was going to be a part of the store. So the people that she was hiring were people from the community. And her way of doing business was that when she hired people, it was about how hard they worked and how good they did the job, not what their past was. There happened to be a clinic not far from the store. That was a drug and rehab clinic. So a lot of the people that came and applied for jobs had been through that clinic. One day she had a guy named Mark come into her store and he said, I've been clean from drugs for 6 months and I need a job. And she said, well, if you could help unload the supply truck today and you're still happy at the end of the day, we'll talk about a job. And he stayed the whole day and he helped unload the truck and he was still, gregarious and happy by the end of the day. And she gave him a job. Started out 1 day a week, but now 14 years later, he's in charge of the inventory for all 11 of her stores. There's another woman by the name of Virginia that she said if Gina hadn't given her a chance, she didn't know where she'd be. She too was in recovery. She'd lost over 100 pounds in her time working in the store. But the store and its culture was a place of support and nurture and care, and it helped to keep her honest. Now, Gina didn't set out to, have a store where she was necessarily hiring all of these people in recovery. She simply set out to create a store where people were valued for their innate worth. My words. But that's really what she was doing, was seeing that beautiful, unique soul inside each person and giving them a chance to let that shine. And so she created a culture where people were valued, where they were cared for, where they were encouraged, where they were nurtured. And they not only survived, but they thrived. And the store thrived because of it. So second chances. We deserve to give ourselves second chances. Other folks deserve to have us risk a little and give them a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance. But we have to do it, backing it up with help and with energy and with the support that folks need, whether it's more lessons to learn how to play a guitar or drums better, or whether it's tutoring for school, or whether it's a therapy or an AA program, whatever it is. The second chance has to be backed up with support. And then we remember what Anne Lamont said again, that love reaches out and reaches out and reaches out and gives us another chance over and over and over. Amen.